We have a bunch of weak, feckless leaders.
Why
creating
around
hard
the
times
list?
right now.
What the fuck is going
Will
on?
you let me
right
Do we
now?
take him out to a farm and shoot him?
No spin, no filters, just the real conversation.
I hope it's not short-lived, man.
I'm going to say a sentence, and it's going to sound strange. In 2016, the U.S. started exporting censorship. All right, it's a fascinating yet alarming pivot in how free speech was weaponized, and it directly ties to the rise of populism. So think Trump's election and Brexit. So before 2016, Western governments, especially the U.S., had been big proponents of free speech. It was seen as a cornerstone of democracy and something we push as a part of our foreign policy. We were out there saying, hey, freedom of speech is what protects societies from authoritarian regimes. It was a tool used abroad to destabilize regimes and encourage dissent in countries like Russia, China, and even parts of the Middle East. But here's where it backfired. Okay, so in 2016, suddenly we see these populist movements gaining ground. Trump's election and the Brexit vote were both massive shocks to the political ecosystem and to the political establishment. The thing about populism is that it thrives on the very principles of free speech and open debate. So regular people, you and me, feeling left behind by the global elite, start using platforms like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, to voice their frustrations. They were organizing, they were debating, they were challenging the status quo, and these populist leaders like Trump were speaking their language. And blammo, here we have Trump in 2016.
Yeah.
And so the very thing that they were using this to destabilize like these regimes, these authoritative dictatorships, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, we were listening. The rest of the world was listening, as were we. We're like, oh, wait, free speech is important. We should be talking. Telegram, Signal, Instagram, or not Instagram, WhatsApp were literally developed to circumvent censorship and host these open conversations. And what do you know? Trump's elected president.
Right.
There's nobody. Well, I mean, he's a somebody, but he's not a political anybody.
He's not a political anybody. I mean, he was absolutely all over the map. I mean, everybody knew him.
Oh, yeah. But
There was, I honestly don't think there wasn't a single person in America that didn't know who Trump was.
Yes. To be fair, I mean, I didn't grow up in this country. I grew up overseas. I've always been American. I grew up in Seattle, came back every summer, but I spent a majority of my time, at least 10 months a year, elsewhere. So I knew roughly who he was. I'm like, Trump, he's a real estate guy, right?
Yeah,
that was it. That was it.
I will remember this for us both. It was 2012.
Oh God.
Yep. And Obama was running again. And I was like, dude, what if Trump ran?
Did you say that?
And you were like, Zach, shut the fuck up. You're out of your mind. No way. And we got into a healthy debate because I was like, dude, he's a billionaire, right?
Right.
Because I probably read a CNN article. Who knows? Yeah, Trump was always floating his name out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's been floating his name since 1998, right?
Yeah. And
I was like, I get it, I get why. And for a long time, I blamed myself for saying it because I have this thing where I'm like, be careful what you wish for, Zach, But I was like, I really would love to see a billionaire that didn't need special interests to run for president. And then he ran, and I was like, what did I do by wishing for this?
Right. Are you also a writer for The Simpsons?
I think so. Because like I have told myself, I was like, be careful what you wish for, like 1,000 times. And sometimes I wish for things, and it's just like, yeah.
That's shocking. Yeah, I remember he's said, I mean, having looked back into it, Trump 100% has said for years, like you said, since the late 90s, like, hey, I should run for president. I could do a better job.
I mean, he was on Oprah. He was on Oprah talking about it.
Everybody loved him.
Everybody has loved. He's been on The View. He's been everywhere talking about it. Shit.
I don't
mean,
get
he was
why though.
Home Alone.
But why is he? I still don't understand. And yes, I saw him in Home Alone. I saw him in all the things.
He was always in love with Reagan. And he was always in love with running for president. I
but
think
why do people like him? Like, he's a real estate guy. He's boring.
He had political views. He contributed to a lot of charities. He was talking to people. He was very popular.
I mean, clearly.
He was everywhere.
Yeah.
He was literally, he was a darling of the United States. He really was. All the way through the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
He was.
I can see the 80s.
His popularity kind of waned in the 2000s, for sure.
Yeah.
He started doing things like WrestleMania and The Apprentice and that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know, America Model or whatever, Miss Universe, Miss America, all that stuff. He did all
that,
of those
right?
modeling stuff. I think so.
Yeah. It's interesting. Anyway, it was kind of interesting to see him. Just I'm not really tracking his thing, but there he is.
He's everywhere, So I don't know. It's interesting to like look back on time and think about all of the stuff that is Trump and is America, and where we would be without Trump. Because I mean, where would we be with a Hillary Clinton?
What's
for president in 2016?
We're sitting here talking about how important it is to elect Trump, right? Because he's kind of like anti everything. But at the same token, I think it might be fair to say that he accelerated a lot of the shit that we don't like coming out of the other side.
Absolutely. That's what I was saying earlier in this episode, right? Is that he is a catalyst for the corruption. He does things off message. He does things like uses private fucking intelligence agencies. So that pisses the CIA off. He starts fucking around with the military industrial complex. He starts fucking around with NATO, WHO,
UN,
the UN,
Paris Peace Accords.
All of it. Literally, he starts fucking with all of it because that's who he is.
Yeah,
that's who he is. Right? That's who he is as a person. He starts fucking with the money, and you see this concerted effort from everybody who has the money, that wants the money to keep rolling into their pockets, going, we need to stop this dude. He is a loose cannon. He sleeps 3 hours a night. He's on cocaine. He's fucking just fucking shit up. Right?
Yeah. That's exactly it. And they were using, so this is kind of like the point. So up until this point, up until 2016, right? Free speech was a weapon the West loved to export. We wanted to disrupt authoritarian authoritative regimes abroad, but we didn't think it would come back. And then, this weapon would be used against us to disrupt the political order here. Populism was a wake-up call that free speech, when allowed to run its natural course, God forbid, can lead to unpredictable results. And in 2016, it resulted in the election of a president who was seen as an anti-establishment and a direct rejection of the elites that had long governed both the United States and Europe. It is even to say something like, hey, we need to revamp the FDA and make food healthy again in the United States. That in itself is controversial and conspiratorial. I can't even say that and nobody's allowed to even think the thought.
Why is that so hard? Why is that such a controversial thing?
I don't know.
Why is it that like you want to make cereal good again, and it's bad? Or just make milk good again.
I don't know. I don't know. I told again, closer family. I was like, hey, I'm going to start, planting my own food because I don't trust stuff in the grocery store. Like, oh, you're crazy.
You're crazy.
I'm crazy for wanting to grow my own food?
Yeah.
Where am I living? You're saying to be a good American, I need to go buy everything. I can't literally live off the land. Bitch, please. No.
That should be catch line.
God. So if we go back to the whole censorship thing, right? So this after Trump comes into presidency, all right, this is where censorship is imported as a tool that comes back to the United States. All right. What you start seeing, particularly after Trump's election and Brexit, is an immediate scramble to regain control of the national narrative. Governments, big tech, legacy media began to realize that this unregulated free speech on social media platforms was undermining their hold on public discourse. Just like we were saying, right? We can't even talk about food here. So what did they do? They began exporting censorship practices like that you'd find in an authoritarian regime that we once criticized. So if you think about it, While countries like China had long controlled speech through their Great Firewall, suddenly the West is trying to control its own digital spaces using excuses like disinformation and hate speech as justification. So companies like Facebook and Twitter were pressured into rolling out more aggressive content moderation policies, shadow banning certain voices, and labeling fake news. Trump, gone. Alex Jones, gone. For God's sakes, man, today, as an example, today, if you have an Alexa in your house and you're listening to this, okay?
Oh my God,
go into Alexa. What is the thing? What do you need to say? I have it written down.
You need to ask her what's a viable candidate in Trump, or why should I vote for Trump and why should I vote for Kamala?
Yes.
That's
what we say. Ask it, why should I vote for Trump for president? And it will tell you, I cannot provide information that promotes a specific political party or political candidate. That's exactly what Alexa will respond to you with. I cannot provide information that promotes a specific political party or political candidate. You know what? That sounds good to me. Like, sure, don't get involved. Amazon, thank you. Just stay out of the way. However, go and ask it, what does Kamala offer, as a president? And it will just go on
20-minute diatribe
over and over and over, all the good reasons you should vote for Kamala. Big tech meddling in our election. They're meddling with your head.
But don't worry, just like everything else that they've come out with in the last 8 years, they're fixing it. They're patching it. It's just a rogue issue. It's a one-off.
Yep.
It's a one-off.
Yep. It's a one-off.
We didn't intend for this to happen.
You know what's so crazy is that they said that. Amazon said that. Google said that. Facebook said that. Everybody, even X has said that. Everybody's been saying it.
Every single one of them has said it.
Yeah, like, oh, it's just a glitch in the system. We're gonna get it sorted. It's a glitch. It's the same glitch in everybody's system. And by the way, these systems are not connected. They are not connected to each other.
When you get sick by eating food that you're supposed to be eating according to the food pyramid.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a glitch in the system.
It's ridiculous, man.
But we didn't mean to post that.
I mean, so
they're all trying to cover their asses.
Yes.
They're all trying to watch their liabilities.
Well, it's more than that. It's more than that, though. So the key is that censorship has become about protecting the political establishment and not the people. So when Trump's rise and Brexit were fueled by grassroots movements on the internet, the powers that could recognize the danger started freaking out. Like, oh God, we have a problem here. So the wrong kind of free speech, that is the speech that challenges globalism and their liberal establishment, it had to be silenced quickly. And then you just see immediately, they started, like the government, the FBI, all these intelligence agencies started pressuring big tech into folding into their camp because they were already deep within, local or legacy media. Legacy media had long before been compromised by the CIA, and this came out during the Church Committee's hearing in 1976. So now they had to move on to big tech, and big tech fell right in line.
Well, I mean, big tech was like the wild, wild west of freaking communication at that point.
But the thing is, you should not be surprised by how fast big tech fell in line, because ultimately they didn't have to be pressured very hard. I would say they didn't need to be pressured at all, because they're all liberal leaning. The CEOs, the owners of these companies are all liberal leaning. And so they're learning that their platforms are being used to elect people that they don't want in power. And so that's when you see this exportation of censorship to handle domestic populist movements. You can look at things like the banning of accounts, the coordination between governments and tech platforms to quote unquote combat disinformation, and the sudden focus on controlling narratives through fact checkers, right? Fact checking is the thing now. It's part of the censorship program. So remember, before this, freedom of speech was a powerful weapon of Western foreign policy. It was seen as a tool to undermine authoritative regimes all across the world. But in 2016, when free speech backfired and led to the results like Trump and Brexit, suddenly the same elites who championed it began looking for ways to shut it down domestically. It's why you see this shift in big tech and governments working hand in hand to regulate what can and cannot be sought online. And it's all under the guise of protecting democracy. But really, they're protecting themselves and the very democratic forces that give rise to this populism.